imagine for a second you're on social media and you present yourself in a certain way on social media. You show everything off. You show off your house. You show off your vacation. You show off everything that goes on with your life. You show off how good your life is. Or you are in conversation with somebody and you dominate them. You take over. You make yourself the star of this show in the center of what's going on with the circle, with the situation. And this isn't going to work out for you anymore. Because this attention-seeking behavior, this behavior to seek the validation, seek the attention, seek the recognition, represents an old version of you. The South Node is in Leo and the North Node is in Aquarius, and these two energies are saying to you, no, you need to release release an old identity, release an old version of yourself that no longer fits with who you're becoming now. And that is that South Node in Leo. Before I go any further, I do these videos once a day. Never plan to do 2 videos in one day, but if I feel like it later on in the day or whatever, I will do another video because I want to respond to the inspiration and the enthusiasm that I have. I won't obligate myself to do it, but it's an option. I allow myself to do it, which is so important, and I think it's so sustainable for the long term because I don't want to cut off my desire to share my creative gifts, my creative passion with doing these videos. So I will share what I want to when I feel like it, other than the planned once a day type things, because that's what feels right for me right now in my life, and so that's what I will do. Just thought I'd get that out. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, these ways that you want to take up the spotlight, want to take up all the space, and just steal away the attention and the energy away from somebody else, this is not going to work out for you anymore. Because the lunar solar eclipse happening on August 12th is going to ask you to release an old identity, release an old attention-seeking behavior, to make it something where you are genuinely expressing and being your authentic self from a place of heart energy, and not from a place of needing the attention, needing the recognition. Now, I just want to go over a couple facts about this eclipse, the solar eclipse. Solar eclipses are always new moons. For lunar eclipses are always full moons. This is a total solar eclipse, and it is happening. I'm going to get into the path for the eclipse. I'm going to just go over that a little bit later. But this eclipse is a south node eclipse. It falls in the south node of the moon. So while it is a time of new intention setting and beginning again and starting afresh, it is also, and I don't have to be right. I do not have to be right about every little thing. I'm aware that this is probably a total solar eclipse. I'm saying it for you. So this eclipse, it's about beginning things, not only releasing, but not only about beginning because it's a new moon, but an eclipse. South node eclipse. And anything that comes up that feels like I want to say it, it feels right, I'm going to do it. If it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to say it. So that's that I would say that. enough disclosures, enough disclaimers there. This new moon solar eclipse happens at 20 degrees and 2 minutes of Leo at 12:37 p.m. Central Time, 1:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Adjust for your time zone. Now, I'm going to get into the qualities of the eclipse, and then I'll go over the aspects to just end this part 1 off. This is part 1. Part 2 is coming tomorrow, where I'm going to go through how this eclipse will impact all 12 zodiac signs, from Aries to Pisces. What you need to know, how do you need to grow and evolve based off of your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign. So that will come later, but I'm just going to focus on, I can only do one thing at a time. I cannot do it all in one video. I can't. It's too much information, and I would get exhausted by the time I get through this piece of information. Oh, and I have to do that other thing. Oh my gosh. I'll be totally exhausted and totally fried, like, after doing it, and I do not want to feel depleted, and I don't want to, feel burnt out by what I'm talking about. So I have to space it out. I have to, works for me as always, and I've always done it this way. I'll always continue doing it this way. Part 1 and then part 2 separately, so that you get a clear separation between the collective and then the 12 sign, because it takes a lot of time to do these episodes. It is a time commitment to do these. It takes a lot of mental energy that I squeeze out my ideas like you're squeezing out a lemon, basically, to get the information out, and it takes time. So I have to space it out so that I don't burn out. So, let's get into it. Now, this lunar eclipse, this new moon in Leo, this new moon in Leo, we're planting seeds, we're setting intentions. The focus here, I want to slow down now because now we're getting into it. The focus is on our personal identity, on who we are, and how we want to shine, and how we want to show up for others in our lives, for ourselves in our lives. It's really, really, who we, who we want to be, really. It's who we are, because Leo is who we are. Leo is our egos. Leo is our ego, the part of us that has its self-definition, has a part of us like, okay, the ego, when we're in our ego energy, we know who we are. We have a clear sense of separation from the outside, and a clear sense of our identity with who we are as true sovereign individuals. That's the ego. The ego is defined by self. It is a clear, self. Like when you're in your ego, you have a clear sense of self. You have a clear definition of yourself and who you are. Because the ego is that. The ego is precisely that. It is, your sense of self that is separate from others. The soul is more connected to the oneness and the divinity of all that is. We are all tied in to one collective tying together, and we're not separate or different, but the ego makes us separate, stand out, different, makes us individuals, makes us defines our personality, defines our sense of self separate from everyone else. So knowing that, the ego is a huge part of spirituality, but we have to, like a dog that we are training, use it correctly and channel it correctly. Okay, so the ego isn't all bad. Personality and a sense of self separate from everyone else that defines us on that level, on the level of rationality. That is all that it is. So we can't just put it aside to be, all negative. But when I talk about the ego versus all, like, don't be in your ego, I'm of course referring to what you hear a lot of time in the spiritual field about the ego, and all the negative stuff applied to the ego. Not that it's all negative, so you have to make that distinction. So whenever I talk about that repeatedly, know that. So, our identity, our personal light, the personal light and creativity and authenticity that we want to shine out into the world. That is what our, that is what Leo also is. It's shining our light, being truly, being truly authentic in our own light. That's really what it's about. It is about us individually just shining out and being in our power and expressing what lights us up creatively, what brings us joy and passion on the creative level, what truly makes us feel uplifted and fulfilled, and creative self-expression. Now I want to talk about this because, what happens and the seeds that get planted under the time of a solar eclipse has a huge impact, not only for those 6 months until that next new moon, because typically new moon, full moons, you have a new moon, and you have the full moon culminating, and then you have the full moon, following that, and a 6-month break between that, and then the intentions come to fruition at that full moon 6 months from the new moon. But this is like an eclipse does not only impact just the next 6 month story, could be a life-changing thing. It could indicate a major life change. Something in your life is falling away for something new to be reborn, and something is getting changed and transformed and looked at, and something brand new is coming to play, and something that you didn't anticipate before is coming in, that is totally new, that you're just starting out. And solar eclipses can indicate that fresh new beginning. You are initiating a new version of yourself, and the old version is naturally falling away. Remember, we had the full moon in Aquarius, which was about your sense of self and how you individually, remember that Aquarius energy is about how you individually serve the collective. The energy of Aquarius is about your own individual contribution with your own authentic creativity, self-expression, all these kind of things, and how it impacts the collective consciousness. It impacts everyone. Aquarius is the sign opposite Leo, which doesn't care what you think. It doesn't have much of an ego at all. The sun is considered detriment, the sign of Aquarius, because Aquarius is very, very selfless. It's about being individual for the sake of the group, and for the good of the group, for the good of the all, for the good of the community. So we looked at how we individuals stand out from our social circle, from our, our people, so to speak. How we want to, rebel against our own social groups and everything going on like that. But then, we get the Leo solar eclipse now, the Leo new moon, that's asking us to be very, very firm and be very, very rooted in our new intentions, in what we are setting for the future, in what we are setting for our lives going on, right here and right now. That's what we're being invited to really, really look at, is what are we setting for ourselves in our lives? What are we intending? What seeds are we planting? So, it could be a life change. So, for example, the February eclipse on February 17th, the day before that, I recorded my very, very first episode of this podcast, which was the Saturn, Neptune, and Aries conjunction episode. I launched that podcast, that new beginning, around the time of that eclipse. And Aquarius is about marching the beat of your own drum, doing your own thing, rebelling, expressing your freedom. And this eclipse is public, where eventually lots of people are going to see it and recognize it and know it. And I'm serving you by these videos. I'm shining my light, and I'm inspiring others to shine their light in social media. I'm uplifting you, and I want to empower and inspire and entertain and educate you through this information. So, the podcast is like that, because it's something public, something that I'm doing creatively that's publicly. Like, I mean, who knew that in this day and age you could present yourself to the world in a way that's true for you, in a way where you're expressing your creative self, where other people publicly could see it. Like wow, like doesn't that, just blow your mind that exists at this point in time, that even makes sense at this point in time for you, that we have this going on. Like this is all a grand thing that we are, considering and really, really moving and shaking in our lives and doing in all those kind of ways like this. So that eclipse in Aquarius was huge. It was a solar eclipse toward the end of the sign, and it initiated the series of eclipses in Leo and Aquarius. Now, this eclipse by house, before you start saying, you don't talk about the houses, you don't use a house system, you don't refer to where the eclipse falls in your unique birth chart, where it happens, where it occurs. And before you start, saying that and talking about how I don't talk about the houses and how I talk about the the themes for the signs and what they're about in terms of their growth, their evolution, their own qualities. This does fall in my 9th house, and lately, I've been thinking about going back to attend college this semester, and I've been really, really considering not doing it, because and the reason for this is that I don't feel that it's aligned with who I am anymore. I feel like it represents an old version of me, an old identity, an old pair of shoes that I'm wearing that don't fit me anymore. That I don't feel the dedication to want to read textbooks and do essays and do all the things like I just, that doesn't resonate with me anymore. So setting new intentions on that, and my decision will probably be officially made and enacted on the day of the eclipse, because on this particular day I'm having a meeting about my work goals, work skills, work status update with some people who are responsible for my services. So that will be going on the day of this eclipse. So this is really, really huge of what is happening. So now that I discussed that, I want to talk about the lunar eclipse in Virgo that happened on March 3rd of this year. This lunar eclipse that occurred, I have a video about it. You can go way back in this podcast and check it out. This eclipse was about releasing this tight grip on, because Virgo is about improving things, it's about craftsmanship, it's about making things better. The South Node, however, was in Virgo at the time. It's not now because it's moved into Leo very, very recently, but at the time it was in Virgo. And it was really very much about the overworking, the self-sacrifice, the sacrificing your identity just for others, the sacrificing your identity just for service to others, just for showing up and being accountable and being dependable and being a good soldier to others, and being so in the logical mind, so in the process of judging and analyzing and doing all this kind of thing. Releasing perfectionism, releasing this mindset of I'm not good enough, I didn't do good enough, I am not good enough in somebody else's eyes, I am not good enough in their eyes, and I am not, I am not, I am not worthy enough in their eyes. It's that kind of thing. So, and also the need to meet everybody else's demands and requests and the things that they need to be able for us to fulfill and do for their benefit and not our benefit, sacrificing our own identity, our own authenticity, our own personal truth. Our own personal truth just for others. So that is that's really, really huge. Where we are, releasing this perfectionistic quality of it's all having to perform and be the best that we can be, and having perfectionistic standards. And really, really, perfectionism can be, we have such high standards for ourselves. We're setting the bar so high that we can't achieve it, that we can't make it happen because it's so high. It is so high, it is too high. And this expectation of ourselves to perform in a certain way, to do things in a certain way, to always be consistent, always do this very, very well, in this over dependent attitude on being of use, being of service, falling into martyrdom. The subtitle of that episode was From Martyrdom to Flow. Pisces is the flow aspect of it. Pisces is the opposite sign to Virgo, which is all about surrendering to the divine, surrendering to the infinite, surrendering to, releasing this tight hold on this physical, logical reality, releasing this hold on needing to get it right, needing to be right and improved and and correct and get all the details right and checked off the list and all that kind of thing, and to just love ourselves and accept ourselves as we are. Whereas this overworking and perfectionism not serving our soul's growth, not bringing us peace of mind and peace of heart. So that's what we looked at then. Now with this solar eclipse in Leo, so that was 6 months ago. This is 6 months later, another eclipse season. August is eclipse season. From August 12th is the very, very first eclipse in the solar eclipse in Leo. The August 27th lunar eclipse, full moon, lunar eclipse in Pisces will be then, which will be a north node eclipse. We're ending themes with that eclipse when it comes to the Pisces ruled matters, the North Node ruled matters, and I may delve into that towards the end of this episode. Now, with this solar eclipse, we are really, really looking at where we have been overly dependent upon approval and external validation, where we've been seeking that need for recognition, that need to be known, that need to be seen, that need to be recognized, that need to have all the, they need to have all the applause on you, all the attention, everybody clapping and cheering for you, and yay, great, being dependent upon the praise, being dependent upon the applause and the recognition and the prestige and all that kind of thing, like 10th house, 5th house, 1st house, or whatever. First house is very, very sovereign, more so. But but dependent upon that applause for your own validation, for your own sense of self-worth, for your own sense of feeling good about yourself. And where is this holding you back? Where is this not working out for you anymore? Where is your soul like, no, I'm done. I want to release this tendency of needing all the external validation elsewhere and come back to myself and love myself and give myself the applause, give myself the recognition, give myself the pat on the back that I did a good job, give myself the permission that I need to shine, talk so nicely to myself and love myself so much that I receive applause, but I'm not dependent on it for my own sense of peace and self-worth. That I can love myself and I can be fully, worthy of being myself and shining my light without needing others to approve of it. Now, where is the expression of our ego having to come into play here? There's this split here. And there's a split here between our egoic expression, us expressing our egos, that part of us, or our authentic selves. Is it our authentic selves wanting to shine in the spotlight, wanting to be generous? Is it our ego that just wants attention and approval and domination and control? Or is it our true authentic self who just wants to express itself, who just wants to shine and share its gifts and creativity and love and heart-centered energy and pride and feeling so good and feeling so happy and joyful and uplifted? What part of us wants, is the loudest? Love more loudly, make our soul part of us, make our authentic self part of us louder than our ego part of us. That's going to be our challenge. Now, where can we be in our power? Being in our power, and using our power wisely. Because when we are fully in our power, when we truly feel worthy and secure enough within ourselves, we do not need to take over the whole stage and the whole spotlight and dominate others and steal the attention from others, because we feel secure within ourselves enough to love ourselves and be so fulfilled and be so taken care of and be so nourished on the soul level that we don't need anyone to validate that for us. That we don't need to steal the spotlight away from others. That we don't need to take the attention and the recognition away from others. That we feel totally good and we can feel worthy of being ourselves, and we can love ourselves, and we can shine in our own light, and we can allow the others to shine in their light, because the world does not revolve around you. It's not me, I. We are all worthy to shine our own creative gifts and be our own individuality, and that individuality contributes to the larger community, which is the opposite sign, Aquarius, which is what we're heading towards. We're heading towards that north node in the sign of Aquarius. We're meant to take the best of Leo, the Jupiter in Leo, the Mars retrograde in Leo, the Saturn in Leo, and we're meant to move into that north node of thinking about the greater good, of thinking about the community, of thinking about everyone and how we can benefit and serve everyone with being our own individual self in that kind of way. So, being, and I just really, really like talking about the shadow of Leo, because it's so profound that I have this way of speaking about it now, because being in your power, but feeling secure about your power, not needing to be selfish about it. Being selfish means that you know in your soul that you are doing something egoic that is hurting others just for self-aggrandizement and grandiosity, just to raise yourself up, that you have to tear others down just to raise yourself up. That, my friends, is selfish. And let's differentiate that out. Self-love versus what it means being in your power. So, okay, self-empowerment versus selfish. That was the word that I've been looking for all this time. Like, what is the other word for selfish? Self-empowerment versus selfish. Putting yourself first versus what it means to be selfish. And there's some old, outdated beliefs about selfishness that we have got to release in order to move forward. Now, who do we try to put on? Do we have masks that we wear? Do we have masks that we put on? that we try to shield our true authentic selves to others because we try to put on these masks, personas that we try to act on just to get the applause, get the recognition, just to be liked. So, we've adapted in these kind of environments because we want to feel loved and seen and heard. So we put on these masks, these personas, these ways of being, just because we're dependent upon the applause. But what in the recognition? What if we can release this and do some inner work with ourselves? And it may require some inner work, some inner self-love, some inner worthiness, some inner, journaling, meditation, all these things with coming back home to yourself, coming back home to who you are in your most genuine, real, raw, authentic self, and it not needing to hide your true identity, not needing to put on this mask because, oh, I just want to be so powerful. Oh, I just want to be so strong, so in control of everybody else. This has got to go. This comes from an insecurity about the self, and we are meant to release any insecurity about the self and heal. Like, heal any narcissism pattern. Heal any wounded sense of self. The leader of the United States is operating from a wounded sense of self, not his true, authentic sense of self. He is the very exact opposite of authenticity and spiritual soul expression. Where he's allowing his narcissistic not feeling good enough, so trying to prove your false sense of self, not your real sense of self. We have to separate those out. And trying to prove himself in that kind of way with his narcissism and his really destructive things where you're not thinking about the greater good. You're not thinking, you're not being selfless. You're not thinking about your people, and you're not doing what feels true and what is right to do and what feels right on an intuitive level. And if you're president, I think that for most people it would feel right. I think that for everybody, really, it would feel right to do things that is for the good of your country if you are a leader of that country. That is what we need. We need leadership for the people, for the community, for everyone, and not just for the leader to be pumped up and self-aggrandized and really having all the power, having all the control, having all the status. We really that old way of being is going to fall away for us during the South Node Leo transit, and this eclipse is going to be a huge facilitator of that thing happening. Where that's going to fall away for us, where we're realizing that selfish, villainous quality, vain quality, full of yourself way of being is not going to work for us anymore. And this eclipse is going to shine a light on that thing going on. Now, what have we put on just to accept others? Like the President of the United States knows how to work the crowd and work the camera, knows how to hook everybody, and does it just for the sake of performances. Just be authentic and just do it from your heart. Do it from a genuine place and not try to just get all the attention because you want the attention. It's a very, very tricky thing when you're stuck in your ego, but it's about releasing this need for all the attention and the applause. That is huge. And the thing is that I want to say here is, as long as your sovereignty, your individuality, your autonomy is not interfering with my autonomy and what I want and what I feel is right, and and my own sense of individuality. That's good. That's the kind of world that we need to live in. We need to respect each other's individuality and self-identity and wants, needs, and desires for our lives, running our lives and co-creating our lives with the universe, with the divine, because we are all sovereign beings. We should all have healthy boundaries between others. We should not try to control or put others in boxes or dominate others or tell others how to be and mold others into the versions of themselves that we want them to be. We should all let others go on their own path and be their own individualistic selves. So, you know, in this Aquarian age, we can be who we truly want to be. We can be who we truly want to be. It feels true for us in our own lives to be. And there's this desire to be seen and recognized for who you truly are. And the only person that you have to prove yourself toward is yourself. Nobody else. If you can prove to yourself that you can be strong in your power and in control of your own destiny, with the help of the universe as your guide and shining your light, it is proving something. But where are you directing that energy of wanting to prove yourself towards? Is it to other people? Is it to groups? Is it to the people around you? Or is it to you? What you really want? So that is what we need to keep in mind. That quote by an astrologer that I used to follow, where she goes, Leo, you want the attention, it's okay to admit it. Kind of making light of all of these really, really serious and profound themes of Leo, which I talk about in my videos, not to diminish her own creative light and her own creative self-expression. Because again, going back to what I said on that Real Me podcast episode, but I discuss my astrology in a different way than she describes the astrology. We're just different in that kind of way, and I really, really stepped into my own with how I talk about astrology now. So, with my own spiritual beliefs and everything like that. So, it's about using your power in the right way. What does it mean to use your power in the right way? Not overestimating who we are to that we think that we should control everybody and everything, that we should be the dominators, that we should, that we should be the king and everybody else is our slave and our servant. Like, that is unhealthy Leo energy. And we were looking at that with the South Node there. We're looking at any wounded sense of self that needs to be brought up to the light of conscious awareness and healed for us to move forward. So, we need to not, think that we are the king of the world, that we are knowing ourselves, that we are perfectly loving ourselves, but not needing to build up this tight image of sense of self and sense of strength that is false, that is not true, loose, intuitive, feeling, letting go, coming home to yourself, and it's secure. Where is our version of self that is insecure? Now, we want to have the power to claim our gifts and share our creativity. Really, really express our heart-centered gifts, our self-centered gifts, and really, really shine and give our creativity out to the world. Now, the ego wants to dominate. The ego wants to be in control. The ego, the soul just wants to express authentically. The soul just wants to live out its true desires and what feels right. The soul just wants to grow and have new experiences and evolve, and it wants to truly feel safe inside of itself with whatever it's doing. And sometimes that safety requires taking risks, and it requires breaking free of certain habit patterns that don't serve you, or certain ways of being that you're like, I can't be doing this anymore. It may require you to let go of old ways, old ways of seeking attention, in this case, or old situations, old jobs, old relationships that our soul is like, that's done. Let's move on to something new. Let's, start something new and turn a blank page and, write on that blank page and write out what our manifestations are and, write out what is true for us to live it, really, really living that life out for all of ourselves. So, the soul just wants authenticity. Now, crisis involves, all this, thing with crisis and, difficulty and a lot of tumultuous times invite change. This eclipse season is asking us to change. Where are you resisting change? Where are you just going along with a certain identity, a certain way of being? And inside your soul, you just know that it isn't right for you. You just know that you need to let this go, let this identity, let this version of you, let this job go, let this role go, or, whatever, could involve the house that Leo falls in your chart. And I just want to say that whatever house Leo, this solar eclipse falls in your birth chart, that could or couldn't indicate what version of yourself you need to release. Is it in relationships? Is it in career? Is it in whatever? That may give some answers. Now, it may or may not be true for everybody. It may be for a lot of people. It may be for some. That's why I don't talk about the houses and I don't use any whole sign or Placidus house system in those videos. So, I have a whole episode about that on the Real Me podcast, Astrologers Wake Up, Change How You Do Your 12 Sign Horoscopes. I have that video, and I make that a public service announcement for all the astrologers who do that on YouTube, and I really, really, state my piece very, very clearly in that episode. So I'm speaking to what, a cause that I am passionate about. Meaningful astrology horoscopes are deeply important to me, and I wish that there was more of them that the way that I do them is more alignment with how they do them, and vice vice versa. So, these eclipses ask us to change. If something is coming up for us and we have been avoiding letting it go and changing it and transforming it, and if we don't let it go and make the change that we need to change, the universe is going to do it for us. The universe is just going to let things fall away for us in order for our souls to evolve and move on to the next level of evolution. Because the soul is not meant to stay in one stagnant place, one stuck place and situation for the whole entire lifespan of your existence on on this planet, your life on this planet. Like, the soul is meant to change and evolve from one state to another, one, phase of your life to another phase of your life. So, that's, really the truth of it. So that's what we have to remember is that sometimes we do have to go through a difficult time or a crisis or this thing because, it's something, what we resist persists. And if we resist transforming it, it's just going to grow, and the more we resist, it's just going to keep knocking harder and harder. Hey, let me in. And eventually it's going to, if we don't take action, it's just going to blow up in our faces, and we have no choice but to just surrender to the change that the universe is forcing upon us because we didn't take the action steps to change it. That's what I want to say to you. Now, we need change to get us out of our stuck and stagnant ways of being. Where are we stagnating? Where are we in an old identity? Where are we, in an old, version of our certain self-expression, of our way of expressing ourselves, that needs to die away in order for a new way of self-expression to be reborn. That we cannot be too caught up and too stuck in the familiar ways of being, in the, the old stuck patterns that we are, refusing to get out of because, oh, it feels so comfortable. Oh, it feels so familiar. And as humans, we want that, that same familiar quality. We're afraid of change. It takes a lot for us to really, really learn our lessons. Like, it's difficult for us to learn our lessons. And, like, there's certain things that we didn't even learn from COVID-19 or from, the past of, electing our president in the United States. Like, we didn't have that awareness of what could go wrong, and now we've had to go through the difficult, rough patch. Things had to go south for us to go north, for us to reach our North Star, hence North Node versus the South Node. And, it's like we have to, there has to be the death and the transformation before you emerge into the beautiful butterfly on the other side, before you emerge into the flying and freedom and, and whatever. Like there has to be this difficult period, this tipping point before we move into, okay, we've got to wake up, we've got to get this straight, like, wake up, let's change the status quo, let's change what's going on with the world, let's change the systems, like, let's reinvent the wheel, and let's make things happen that are new, better, more advanced, more evolved, more spiritual, more loving, more considerate toward humanity as a whole. So, we need to release our tight hold on the familiar. That is evident. Now, this eclipse is not just limited to one particular day. It's not just, on this day your life is going to change. It can actually be during the whole eclipse season, over the whole eclipse, portal, that this change and this new beginning is forming for us. Now, things, you will find a lot of meaning in things, and you will see that meaning, and you will live out that meaning, as we go through the coming months and years, potentially, as we navigate through this eclipse story and this eclipse, this set of eclipses along the Leo-Aquarius axis. So we need to understand that, there could be the fall of kings. You probably heard some astrologers and some people talking about it online, like people are talking about the end of celebrity culture or the death of celebrity culture, like that celebrity culture of needing to be, very, very famous and very, very, up there and really, really, popular and, all this kind of things like that is falling away for us. And it's more about cultural change, which is for humanity, groups of people coming together, forming causes that are for the good of all, for the good of the group, stepping into our own power, that we are not handing over our power to celebrities and authority figures and people in politics, that we can be empowered to focus on ourselves, that we don't have to put all the, that people who are in high status reputations, that things are not just benefiting the select few of, the wealthy, the rich get richer, kind of thing, where, where the gap widens, but between people, and where you put people on pedestals and you over-idealize people for being so great, for being so popular, so, strong, or, whatever. And, you're not being in your own power to, to have the power and be your own celebrity, your own government official. And we're all celebrities because we're all humans playing certain roles. And, we're all equal. And that kind of humility we have to understand very, very clearly with us just playing a role. Is anyone really above anyone else? Everyone's different, everyone's special for their own different reasons, but really no one is superior to anyone else when it comes down to it, and we're all equal. So that's what we have to, remember. We're all different, but equal. This doesn't mean that some people can be an authority in some areas and others, in other areas. Like some people are authorities in one particular field and others are authorities in another particular field. And I was seeing a clip by Teal Swan, like, there's a superiority with that. But it's not a sense of superiority in a sense. It's just a sense of authority over, knowing this thing. And that's your unique contribution, that we all have our own aspect of life that we are the authority on, that we are the expert on, or very, very knowledgeable about, very, very well versed in our lives. So that's what we need to remember. So, true leadership is not for the self, and not about self-aggrandizement, as I said before, not about, benefiting yourself, but it's about the people. It's about thinking of the best interests of the people, of the group, of your nation, of your things. So any leader who's just focusing on me, I, is not the leader that we need in this life. And we really, really need that air energy, that other-oriented energy to balance out the dying away and the wounding and the difficulty with the lower expression of masculine energy. Now, people with placements between 18 to 22 degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpion, Aquarius, will feel this the most. As the eclipse will cross over Greenland, Iceland, Spain. So in Europe, those kind of places, that's where it's direct. It is in the sign of the sun. So the sun is being eclipsed in its own sign. And remember, the sun is how you shine. It's your identity. It's your energy. It's your vitality. It's how you want to be individualistic. Now, Mercury and Jupiter are also in Leo, which is where we are approaching an exact conjunction on the 14th of August, when Mercury and Jupiter, Mercury, the planet of communication, thinking, intellect, conversation, learning. Jupiter is higher learning, philosophy, belief system, faith, expansion in Leo. That conjunction will really, really be about thinking for the future, thinking for the grand vision for what we want in the future, what we want in our lives, for, what's going on in the future. Having optimism, thinking in bigger terms, thinking more philosophical terms, thinking more optimistic, terms. So that is what is going on with Mercury and Jupiter there, and it's all about how we're going to self-express, how are we going to share our intellectual gifts, because Mercury is in Leo, and I'll maybe do a separate set of videos on Mercury and Leo. But Mercury and Leo is that confidence in our words, confidence in our knowledge base, and what we know on an intellectual level that is aligned with our hearts. And Mercury in Leo is that that person that really, really wants to express its heart deeply. And Jupiter and Leo, of course, is all about shining and being in the spotlight and all that. So eclipses allow for certain things to fall away. We make space for new things to come about. And the question is, do we really, really have free will, or do we really to get to choose and co-create our own lives, or is it up to fate, the universe? Is it up to what the cards deal for us? That is a question that we continue to circle around in ourselves. And the answer, a little bit of both. A little bit of both. It's not either or. But it can feel like with eclipses, it's a little bit more on the side of it's up to fate, even though it is both. So while it's not either or, there is this element of, I don't have a choice in this. It'll be up to the universe. It'll be up to the divine. It'll be up to, what happens that is just out of my control. That is my soul's destiny, that I am trying to hold on so tightly to controlling that and releasing it. So this is about allowing the universe to work through you. allowing things to move through you, and where you're surrendering your control to the divine. That is really, really huge, where you're, surrendering all of this, needing control the outcome, needing to control what you're doing when it comes to co-creating your life, surrendering this to the divine will, the divine, the higher plan for your life. Now, keep in mind that Pisces lunar eclipse on August 27th is about surrendering your burdens to the divine, surrendering your, all that you've worked so hard for, all the weight on your shoulders, because Virgo's responsibilities, duties, obligations, and it's about surrendering this and letting this go and releasing this tight hold to control everything, to hold on so tightly, this to do all this and release this to the universe, and letting it go in a way, and 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 to and to find serenity, find peace in the moment. Not needing to always have to map everything out or logically plan everything out. Or this could be said for all eclipses, like, doesn't need to be just mapping it out just logically and in that kind of linear left brain way. It can be where I am spiritually allowing for it to be the way that it is. And so can we be the observer of what's going on in our life without always needing to change or always needing to fix what is going on, but just observing it, just seeing it, for what it is, as a thing itself, observing this element going on, and the time to set intentions for what we want to do. But the thing with setting intentions is, they do say that, don't set intentions during an eclipse because, your intentions will be, misled. You won't get your intentions fulfilled or whatever. It's about omen to set intentions or whatever. But, the invitation here is to not be so in control of the intention. This is what I want to say. This is what I'm inviting you. Setting an intentions during an eclipse means that you can set intentions, but it's allowing the universe and the divine to speak to you in terms of signs, synchronicities, into intuitive hits, intuitive messages, where you are surrendering your need to control the outcome, need to set intentions and have it go your way and have your intentions fulfilled on this day, at this time, and it to come in this form, and it to be baked, and the crust is golden, and it's banana bread, and there was 2 ounces of berries in the bread, like all these specific, ideas of what we think it should be, So, we need to release this quality, and, letting go of this, and and setting intentions, and then releasing these intentions to the divine, where we're not so in control of what's going on in in that sense of the word, necessarily speaking. So we are setting intentions, but we're doing it in a gentle way. We're saying, universe, show me the way. Show me what kind of intentions I need to set. Show me how I should go about manifesting my decisions. I am allowing you to support me in my becoming, in my evolution, with my intention setting. I'm not consciously in my own power doing it. I am doing it collaboratively with the universe. It is more like that during a solar eclipse. So that's what you do want to keep in mind when working with the energy of this eclipse. Meditate on it, journal on it, write down and tap into what your intuition is saying really, really strongly, what your guides are saying, what your spirit team is saying. Taking care of your mind, body, and spirit. Drinking enough water, taking care of yourself on the physical level. In fact, right now I'm remembered to do that. So and taking care of yourself on that level, because the eclipse energies are deeply intense. So you want to keep that in mind. And the final thing is being creative, because the eclipse energy is like the energy can be really, really dynamic and intense. I think that I'm already feeling it. Just like 9 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days before it happens, and like I can feel inside of me a kind of energy that's building. So taking care of yourself, taking care of nourishing yourself, regulating your nervous system, drinking enough water, taking enough physical exercise, doing all that kind of thing, that's deeply important during a random eclipse. And then finally, it's happening in Leo, so do something creative and put it out there. Receive recognition and applause, but do not be dependent on it. Well, what I think is when that cute little child hears somebody say, "Oh, you're so talented, you're so this," and the cute little child goes, "I know." I know. And that may be what you want to embody. Because, it's like somebody saying this to you, and it is not, I don't think that is egotistical. I think that is knowing and, having self-understanding as to, as to who you are and what your gifts and talents are, and having full ownership, patenting that, and being in your sense of sovereignty and your sense of identity and power with those with those gifts, with wanting to be seen and recognized, not as a byproduct, the recognition and the applause is a byproduct of you expressing your authentic self because you genuinely want to express yourself. Leo at the high root is authentic self-expression, creative self-expression. It is not, just doing things that may be not true for you just to seek attention. That's the low road of Leo. So that's what we have to understand. So, low road, high, low road. I think that I've made Leo energy deeply clear, and I know Leo energy like the back of my hand at this point now. So, Mercury sextile Venus. Let's get into the aspects for this new moon. I'm going to go over these fairly quickly, because we do have to talk about the specific aspect and planetary conversations happening that are involved with this eclipse. So, Mercury sextile Venus. So, during this Mercury sextile Venus, and slow down here, remember that Mercury is the planet of communication and thought and intellect. And so Venus is love and relationship and collaboration. Venus attracts everything to it. It doesn't just force and push everything. It's like a flower. It draws energy towards it. It draws that beauty and that collaboration with it. So Mercury sextile Venus is we're communicating lovingly. We are communicating from our hearts. We're communicating from our authentic way, our authentic self-expression, because it's Mercury's in Leo. We're communicating from our heart in a way where we're connecting with others, and we're forming that social connection with other people in that regard. We are communicating in ways that are heart-centered, ways that are loving and heartfelt and generous, and we're feeling more social. Could be a great time for more socialization. We could be having more heartwarming, more loving conversations, more generous, more uplifting, more heartfelt connections with others. That's good for anything creative also, because Venus is creativity, Venus is art. So doing anything that is creative, artistic, that kind of endeavor is really, really going to work out for you this time. So anything in the creative avenue, in the creative field, whatever you're doing, in that sense, with the creative things that you're doing, art, painting, music, whatever is great for that also. And if there's any disagreement, if there's any, difficulty with what is, I'm going to slow down now because I'm rushing this because there's a little bit more information to get through here. There's a lot of aspects for this new moon I had to pick and choose. So, where are we smoothing over the rough edges, finding harmony, finding a simpatico, finding a happy medium between our energies, collaborating, connecting on an intellectual level, on a diplomatic, relational level. That's what we're keeping in mind with that. It's also good for this energy, really. So, we are at this time smoothing over anything difficult or challenging that could have, played out for us in our own lives. And that's how we can best use this energy. Now, Mercury sextile Uranus is, Mercury, and Uranus is that revolutionizer. It's the great awakener. It brings new information, new sudden downloads that we didn't expect to the table, new sudden downloads that, that came out of left field. I didn't expect that from anywhere. It's, it's sudden, it's shocking, it's unexpected. It's, like I didn't expect this. I didn't anticipate this being said, or this being thought about, or this being in my mind, where you can have flashes of new insight. You can have creative ideas that come out of the box, that you might want to make these ideas happen for your lives. You might want to act on these creative ideas that you're like, whoa, I just had this creative idea that never occurred to me before. It's totally new. It's totally inventive. And Gemini and Leo could be for your stimulation, for your fun, for your having fun, for your going out and socializing and making things happen and doing things that are intellectually stimulating and exciting and fun. So great energy for doing a podcast episode, or doing a video on YouTube, or giving a presentation, or meeting new people, or singing in front of people, performing in front of people. Great energy for that. You just get this creative idea, this creative urge, that is just, wow, I didn't expect this before. I didn't, know this could be possible before. Where, you're learning new things also. It's great for learning and education and new information. You may think about the future very, very deeply, because Uranus is the future. Uranus is, where we're going, and it's the future, destiny. And so we could think about what is going on futuristically for the world in that sense. I'm kind of going back over my points again. So, thinking about that, what could be going on for humanity. We're thinking about what could we invent for the good of humanity. And then learning over the internet. Like Uranus rules learning over the internet. Uranus rules that stimulus of information that is internet-based, that is over cyberspace, is over, the technology that we are learning in that sense. So it's a good thing to read websites and hear different perspectives and hear people, or express yourself online on social media. Great day to update your social media. Of course, I update it on a daily basis. So great day for that. Great time for that. Great energy for that. Now, Venus trine Uranus is the final aspect that I really, really want to discuss in depth in this episode. So Venus is, as I said before, values. It is our energy. It is socialization. It is collaboration. It is relationship. And Uranus is the electric, the new revelations, the new revolutions, the new things coming to play here. So it's great to try something new that's aligned with your values, that's true to who you are, true to what you truly value inside of you. You have these set of values. You have the set of, like, the sense of, yeah, this is important to me. This matters to me. This is what I believe. And you're stretching yourself a little bit with this. You're getting out of your comfort zone. You're expanding. You're trying something new that you never tried before. Uranus energy wants to break you free of stuck and stagnant ways of being. Stuck and stagnant ways of going about your life that are old and don't fit you anymore, and wanting to change and wanting to revolutionize and reinvent those ways of being. You may have an intellectual attraction toward ideas, toward other people's ideas, toward news, toward books, toward podcasts, toward all these kind of things where you want to exchange ideas, where you want to learn, you want to expand your mind, you want to have conversations with others. This can really, really help you. Like, having a conversation with another person can take you outside of yourself. You can take yourself outside of your own self and your own mind and your own knowledge, and can put you in the perspective of another, where you're seeing it through their eyes. You're seeing it for how they look at it. You're understanding how they tick, what they think, what they believe, how they view the world. You're understanding that on a very, very deep level. You're putting your mind in that person's situation, in that person's shoes. You're learning about them, and you're expanding and enriching your mind. Now, you may want to take a risk at this time. You may want to take a gamble, or do something a little bit rebellious, a little bit avant-garde, if that's the word for it, especially in relationship, whatever that may be for you. I'm not going to list out examples of that because it could be very, very inappropriate if I were to go there, so I'm not going to do that. But you may want to take risks in intellectual, or take risks in your relationship, take risks in your creative projects. You may want to, where it's good at this time to be open to change, expect the unexpected. Not be so stuck on, it has to be this way, it has to go this particular way, it has to be, this set planet, this set structure, and all this kind of thing. Like, I'm breaking from routine, I'm breaking from my typical way of going about this way of being. And I'm doing something different. I'm doing something out of the box. I'm being open to what the universe has to provide, and being open to a new way of being. Change. A new situation. I'm open to seeing change, living change, being change. I'm open to change. Change is happening to me, but I am actively, in my life, being a co-creator of my life, to actively take action upon that change. I'm actively taking action to make it graceful for me, make it easy for me, make it manageable for me to move through that change, because I'm actively taking action and using it and responding to it, and trusting my intuition and trusting the signs, as opposed to just staying in the same old patterns and letting the universe take over and just take over my life and control it and do whatever. Now, the very, very last thing here is that any side of you that had been squashed out of you, any side of you, like your creative side, going back to what I was saying about the masks that you put on, the image that you put on, like if there's anything that goes on that is your creative side, that is your that part of you, that authentic part of you that wants to be, that wants to shine, that wants to self-express, that wants to do all this. Now, don't let others dim your light. Don't let others shut out the light and squash out and tame your fire and tame your own heart's joy and your own creative passion with what you enjoy doing, with what is true for you to live out. Don't let others squash it out of you. Don't let others take it out of you. Allow your creative self, a chance to play and a chance to, live and be in the sunlight and be in the spotlight and, whatever. Bring out this creative side and do not be afraid to express the creative, authentic part of who you are. So that is all that. Ooh, this has been an hour and 15 minutes. Oh my goodness. So thank you for tuning into this long, extended episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast. Oh wow, this has been long. This is a lot of information discussed, a lot of depth. I tried to keep it concise as I can, but wow, there's a lot to discuss with this eclipse. Thank you for tuning into this deep dive. Maybe the 12 sign video will be shorter than this. I don't know. I'll be doing it tomorrow because I have to sleep and I have to recharge my batteries and I have to, take care of myself. So I will do that. So I will stop this video, put this video together, put it through the editor, do all this kind of thing, finding corresponding image that I always put in the video. We're hearing my voice, you're seeing an image like it typically is. Okay, so I'm feeling exhausted now. That was a lot of information to get through. This eclipse is major, it's big, it's significant. And I couldn't imagine this being filled with any more information. I think that was a ton of information I just threw at you. And I'm sorry if it was overwhelming for you, but I'm not sorry because I did this video very, very intentionally. It was my own creative self-expression. So, I don't apologize for throwing all this information at you. So, thank you for tuning in. If you like this, then please share this. I want my messages and I want my voice and creativity to go out to as many people as possible. To be known and seen and heard by as many as possible. So if you can do that, I would greatly appreciate it. If you could if you subscribe, that would be wonderful for you to get this video out to the algorithm so that more people can find this and like this content and join this like-minded community that I am building on this channel. So, in this like-minded community is true themselves. Let themselves shine in their own light and be themselves. In this community is probably very, very individualistic, very creative, very, very dynamic, probably very, very fiery, or intuitive, or sensitive, or whoever they are, whatever their personality is, they are true to themselves. And that's the kind of community that I want to build on this channel, a soulful, loving, true community. So if you are one of those people that is on a spiritual path, that likes deep, insightful astrology, like the video that you just listened to today, if you want to become empowered to be your most authentic self, then please stick around, because all this channel is authenticity, spirituality, soul versus ego, astrology type content. So if you are liking that kind of content, if you're vibing with it, then stick around, because I'm not going away. And I'm not silencing myself, and I'm going to continue to post throughout the coming months and days and weeks. So, thank you for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode of the Cosmic Sky podcast. Be well, and have a beautiful, manageable, graceful eclipse as much as you can. As much as you can. And trust the divine. That's the other thing I want to say. Okay, bye for now.